Yeah. So first of all, I would like to thank my previous speakers, Dr. Jyotidev, Dr. Jay Prakash, for introducing the session and telling us in detail about CGM. Dr. Kulkarni and Dr. Raju for introducing the sessions. And I'll take you through this about clinical application of CGM, and we'll discuss about the application of TIR also, which is a recent concept in diabetes management. We know that diabetes has to be managed not only for glycemic parameters, but also for good quality of life and improving glycemic variability. Because glycemic variability, whether it is an intraday glycemic variability or an interday glycemic variability, it will lead to a high oxidative stress and is likely to land the patients into complications. Further, higher the glycemic variability, higher is the likelihood of developing severe hypoglycemia even at high HbA1c levels. This slide has already been discussed by Dr. Jyotidev. The same level of HbA1c, even if it is good at around 7%, can reveal a huge amount of glycemic variability as represented in the first pie chart, or can be without glycemic variability as represented in the pie chart number 3. It's all about peaks and troughs in glucose levels, and peaks and troughs are identified classically by doing an SMBG. Maybe 5 times in a day, maybe 7 times in a day. But what SMBG misses out is different time points wherein glucose levels can be high and also glucose levels can be low. So in order to understand the different glycemic variability, CGM came into picture, and CGM, as Dr. Jyotidev has already told us, has been available for use in India since 2005. It tells us in detail about, for the past 7 to 14 days, how the patient's glucose levels have fluctuated. Time in range is basically an advancement over the data that is obtained from CGM. CGM was always run to understand how much time the patient remains in the required glucose range. So the time in range is basically the time in required glucose range for that particular patient. And for usual type 1 or type 2 diabetes patients, usual adult, it is set at 70 to 180 milligram per deciliter. After understanding the time in range concept, automatically we know that something is time above range and something is time below range. So the duration of glucose, duration of time for which the glucose levels are below 70 milligram per deciliter on a daily basis, or for the past 7 days, or for the past 14 days of the sensor wearing period, is time below range. And when the glucose levels are more than 180 milligram per deciliter, it is time above range. Now from 180 milligram per deciliter, you can have it till 600, 650 milligram per deciliter or till infinity. Now, studies have clearly shown that there is difference between the high glucose levels when they are between 180 to 250 milligram per deciliter and when they are more than 250 milligram per deciliter. That's why time above range has been classified into 2 levels. Level 1 is when the glucose levels are between 180 to 250 milligram per deciliter, and level 2 when the glucose levels are more than 250 milligram per deciliter. Similarly, for time below range, below a 54 milligram per deciliter mark, you see patients developing cognitive impairments and hypoglycemia unawareness starts. So time below range has been classified again into 2 parts. Level 1, time below range, where the glucose levels for the duration for which the glucose levels are between 54 to 70 milligram per deciliter, and level 2 hypoglycemia or level 2 time below range is below 54 milligram per deciliter. I can explain you through this sample TIR report. This patient has worn the sensor for 13 days, and this is the bar that we obtain for time in range. For this particular patient, the time in range, the time in target glucose range was a duration of 54%. Time above range level 1 was 21%, and time above range level 2 was 14%. Similarly, time below range was 6% and time below range level 2 was 5%. The idea basically of diabetes treatment is to increase the time in range, first by decreasing the time below range, later on by decreasing the time above range. So we have to increase the time in range and reduce the time above range and time below range. That is the primary target of diabetes measurement. Now, we have understanding, and we know through the classical UKPDS and DCCT data that chronic hyperglycemia, as evaluated through HbA1c, was correlated with adverse outcomes. But time in range is a short duration concept. HbA1c is a duration of 60 to 90 days. but time in range is for a duration of just around 10 to 14 days. So is there any data with time in range? And yes, there is. This slide has already been shown by Dr. Jyotidev, in which they have clearly found, the Beck et al. Has clearly found that time in range correlates adversely with microvascular complications. The lower the time in range, the higher the microvascular complications. The lower the time in range, the higher is the incidence of retinopathy and microalbuminuria. Kalra et al. In 2017 had given this slide, which showed that a reduction of time in range by 10% can increase retinopathy risk by 64%, microalbuminuria and nephropathy risk by 40%, and neuropathy risk increases by 25%. This is about microvascular complications. So if you are able to improve time in range, you will be able to reduce retinopathy, nephropathy, and neuropathy. Not only this, there is another data from Lu et al. From China, and they have shown that time in range was associated with carotid intima media thickness in type 2 diabetes mellitus. Carotid intima media thickness, we know, is a surrogate marker for atherosclerosis. A 10% improvement in time in range was found to be associated with 6.4% lower risk of abnormal CIMT. Thereby, these small studies have shown that time in range seems to correlate not only with microvascular complications, but also with macrovascular complications. Macrovascular benefit, obviously we know, comes in a longer duration of time, but short duration of time in range improvement can definitely improve the surrogate markers and finally may lead to macrovascular benefits. Now we are discussing about time in range, but is it an internationally accepted parameter? Yes. Time in range came into discussion first in 2012. In 2017, the ATTD Congress gave various parameters for evaluation of CGM data, and time in range was a very important parameter along with time above range and time below range. In 2019, ATTD Congress was again convened, and they have given specific recommendations regarding what should be the time in range, and these and similar recommendations have been accepted by ADA, AAC, and ADA in 2020. Now in 2020, ADA advocates the use of CGM in various patient profiles, and AAC and ACE have started saying that CGM assists in reaching glycemic goals safely. According to the international consensus of time in range of ATTD, which was convened in 2019, time in range, they have given some recommendations. And these recommendations are very important to understand because time in range is gradually becoming an important marker of diabetes risk calculation and overall diabetes treatment quality. So this is the recommendation for a type 1 or type 2 diabetic patient who is non-pregnant adult. And you can appreciate from here, the green part is time in range. Time in range, green part has been recommended to be, the glucose level should be between 70 and 180 milligram per deciliter, and time in range should be maintained more than 70%. The ADA also recommends to give in brackets what time in range means, what is the percentage of what time in range means over 24-hour period. So time in range of 70% means maintaining glucose level between 70 to 180 milligram per deciliter for more than 16 hours and 48 minutes over a day. Time below range of level 1, that is between 54 to 70 milligram per deciliter, should be less than 4%, and time below range of less than 54 milligram per deciliter, level 2, should be less than 1%. Similar is the recommendation for time above range. Between 180 to 250 milligram per deciliter, it should be less than 25% for a non-pregnant adult type 1 or type 2 diabetic. And above 250 milligram per deciliter should be reduced to below 5%. The other recommendations are for older and high-risk type 1 or type 2 diabetes mellitus patients. And for these patients, they recommend that time below range of less than 70 milligram per deciliter, level 1, should be below 1%. Time in range, then the required glucose range for this population is 70 to 180 milligram per deciliter. Time in range should be maintained at more than 50%. Time above range of level 1 should be below 50%, and time above range of level 2, more than 250 milligram per deciliter, should be below 10%. Pregnancy is a specific state in which they have identified that tighter glucose controls result in better glucose outcomes. So the time in range or the time in required glucose range has been fixed at 63. The glucose range has been fixed at 63 to 140 milligram per deciliter, and it is different from normal adult population. For pregnancy with type 1 diabetes, the glucose level between 63 to 140 milligram per deciliter should be maintained for more than 70% times, and level 1 and level 2 time above range should be below 25%. Time below range of less than 63 milligram per deciliter up till 4 milligram per deciliter should be less than 4%, and below 54 milligram per deciliter should be less than 1%. For pregnancy in type 2 diabetics or gestational diabetes, the recommendations are similar, but they have said that the time in range duration should be on the higher side. These are other recommendations that were given by Kalra et al. Group in 2017. They formed a multinational panel comprising several endocrinologists, diabetologists, and researchers from 15 different countries, including India, Maldives, Philippines, Egypt, Nepal, that way. And they have given very clinical requirements of time in range. They have divided time in range targets based on age groups, in which they have said that for adults, the required glucose range should be between 70 and 180 milligram per deciliter for adolescents. And the time in range should be maintained at more than 70%. For adults, again, they say that time in range should be 70 to 180 milligram per deciliter, but they have given another point saying that if it is possible, that then the time in range for this group, the adults, should be between 70 to 160 milligram per deciliter if possible, and the duration should be more than 70%. If possible, for tighter controls, the duration should be more than 80%. So they have given another category of possibilities, wherein 70 to 160 milligram per deciliter glucose level should be maintained for more than 80% of time for these adults. Time in range for pregnancy, they have set at between 63 and 140 milligram per deciliter, and the target that they have issued was more than 80%. For elderly, the time in range, the glucose levels were 90 to 200, and time below range was considered at below 90% and 90 milligram per deciliter, and it should be less than 5%. They have given another recommendation for time in range regarding complicated diabetic patients. So patients who are having renal or hepatic disease should be maintained between a glucose level of not between 70 to 180, but between 90 to 180, because there is a higher possibility of developing hypoglycemias at below 90 milligram per deciliter. And the time in range should be more than 70%. For patients having microvascular complications, it was like adults, where time in range was recommended to be kept more than 70%, and the glucose range should be 70 to 180 milligram per deciliter. For patients with macrovascular complications, they have said that the required glucose range should be between 80 and 180 milligram per deciliter and should be maintained for more than 70% of time. They have given specific recommendations regarding infection patients and non-hospitalized and hospitalized patients. For hospitalized infected patients, the required glucose range they have said was between 140 to 180 milligram per deciliter, and should be tried that more than 180 milligram per deciliter should be less than 15% of times, and below 140 milligram per deciliter should be less than 5% of times. For non-hospitalized infected patients, they say that the time in range, the glucose range should be between 80 to 180 milligram per deciliter, and the time in range should be maintained above 75%, between 80 and 180 milligram per deciliter. These are again very practical recommendations. That's why I have brought them here. So how does it apply for targeted diabetes populations? Dr. Jay Prakash has already told us that time in range CGM can be utilized for improvement of diabetes and lifestyle. Specifically, time in range reduces HbA1c by 0.8% when we increase the time in range by 10%. An improvement in time in range by 10% can also reduce nocturnal hyperglycemia by 48% and daytime hypoglycemia by 40%. The length of ICU stays also decreases, and there is improvement in quality of life. So there are patient scenarios where we can utilize CGM data and time in range for improvement in diabetes profile. For patients who are failing on polypills, but they do not approve of insulin, we can actually do a CGM study, identify time in range, and make appropriate modifications if possible in diet and lifestyle, as well as medicines. So the patients who seem to be failing on polypill and who are not ready to accept insulin, we can actually improve their glucose levels by giving them a CGM and time in range study. Those patients who are developing recurrent hypoglycemias and are insulin users, in them CGM and TIR can actually help in reducing hypoglycemia and improvement in glycemic parameters. And pregnancy with diabetes, all pregnancy with all diabetes, type 1 diabetes, type 2 diabetes, all pregnancy, wherein we require multiple pricks all throughout pregnancy. And these patients are more motivated also, and they require tighter glucose control. They do not require glucose between 70 to 180 milligram per deciliter, but they require a glucose range between 63 to 140 milligram per deciliter for better outcomes. For these patients, utilization of CGM and TIR is a very good idea, and also in India. Again, during hospitalization, when we require glucose range between 140 to 180 milligram per deciliter, and the patients are already investing a huge amount of money in hospital, we can actually provide them CGM study, TIM in range concept, and we can reduce their hospitalization stay, and we can actually save them money through utilization of CGM. Even those infected patients who are not hospitalized right now, if they have better glucose control with the help of CGM TIR, hospitalization may be prevented and reduced. So this is another area where we can use CGM and TIR. And as per Dr. Jayaprakash lecture, to understand the impact of diet and lifestyle, we keep on explaining to the patients to do diet modification, to do lifestyle modification, but these patients do not follow. And if they know that eating rice does this, eating wheat does this for them, walking so much helps, exercising so much helps, exercising at this time of day can reduce glucose levels this much, exercising in the evening can reduce glucose levels that much. And actually, we started understanding diet more. There are some patients who have more hyperglycemia because of wheat. There are some patients who have more hyperglycemia because of rice. There are some patients who do not have hyperglycemia out of fruits. So individualization of therapy, individualization of diet, individualization of lifestyle is also required. And that can be really done by using CGM and TIR. And for this, we can use the CGM and TIR to improve diet, to improve lifestyle, and to improve the patient's medicine also. Finally, there are various groups of patients where we can use CGM and TIR. We can use it for non-compliant patients, for therapy adjustment, to know the hyperglycemic patterns, for baseline assessment of patients, for insulin assessment, for patients who have high glucose variability, for knowing the hypoglycemia patterns of patients. In patients where SMBG and HbA1c do not match and where elevated HbA1c has been continued in spite of whatever we have tried, for all those patients, we can use TIR and CGM, and all those are our patients. The values offered by usage of time in range are reduction of HbA1c, reduction of time spent in hypoglycemia, reduction of micro and macrovascular complications, reduction of hospitalization, and reduction of quality of life. But yes, you are right. There are limitations. There are limitations in India. India is a self-paid healthcare sector. There is difficulty in utilization of intermittent data to guide long-term treatment. TIR provides us just a 2 weeks data, but we have frequent variability in diet and exercise due to seasonal festivities, due to intermittent holidays in India. That is a limitation. There is limited use of SMBG in India, which may be necessary for sensor calibration in some CGM sensors. There are social taboos wherein people do not want to know their glucose levels. They do not want to know their glucose levels, do not want to make diet and exercise adjustments. And that is a big limitation. Sensor dysfunction in India is a reality, and it is because of temperature variations. Our Freestyle Libre sensors are Medtronic sensors. If they are exposed to higher temperatures and then suddenly exposed to lower temperatures, they start dysfunctioning. And then there is a large pool of physicians with limited training and understanding on CGM, and they have to be apprised of the importance of CGM before we can introduce it in a larger scale. Last word is that HbA1c, we've been using HbA1c for the past many years now, but HbA1c observes the glycemic forest from a long distance. We do not understand variability, while CGM and TIR maps this glycemic forest and helps us to walk through this glycemic forest. So in order to walk through this glycemic forest, we require CGM and TIR in combination with HbA1c for most of our patients. Thank you.